So now we're going to dig into the frameworks and the templates that we've got for this section here. And to kick us off, we've got the Billboard Effect, which you spoke about earlier. This is a simple flow of how it happens that we encourage you to have a read through that. But to really drill into it, we've created this diagram here, which we'll bring up on the screen closely so you can investigate it. But basically, the Billboard Effect is a result of a study that was conducted in 2011, and it was again revisited just in the last 12 months or so, just to check whether it's still working. And the basic premise of the Billboard Effect is that by being on the channels, you will receive not only more bookings from the channels, but more bookings to your direct hotel website. So there was a very early study done on a small sample space, then there was a much larger sample space done over 3 years, back in 2011, and more recently this has been tested again. And the results are absolutely that the Billboard Effect does exist, and you do receive an increase in bookings clearly from OTAs, but also an increase in bookings from via your direct channels as well, by being, as a direct result of being on the platforms. So the idea, at the start there is, obviously back to the same old thing. 85% of all travel research is conducted online, and where do they go from there? They end up on a lot of them end up on the OTAs. 30% of direct bookers actually start their journey on the OTA. So that's a guaranteed. Then comes into play is the Billboard Effect. And while they're on the OTA, some people will obviously book direct, and you'll get an uplift in bookings via the OTAs. That's fine. But the Billboard Effect is more so about when do they actually jump off and come direct, and how many of them actually book. So we know that while 30% of direct bookers actually begin their journey on an OTA, so for every 3 out of 10 people that go first to the OTAs, some of them end up booking direct. So there's a really solid number to rely on there. And 65% of direct bookers at some point go to an OTA. So you can imagine if you're not on them, so if somebody even comes direct to your website first, and then goes off to the OTAs, but then comes back to your website, or they go to your competitor's website, then to the OTAs, then to yours. So there's a number of different paths that they can take, but 65% of direct bookers actually don't necessarily start on the OTAs, but at some stage go to the OTAs. So the numbers are really strong. And what it basically means is the measurement that they come up with back in 2011 was that, and they can't give a hard number, but you can expect, simply by listing on the OTAs, you can expect an uplift of anywhere from 7.5 to 26% increase in total reservations, which is significant, is it not? Harder to measure exactly how many you're getting off each platform, but they've measured that 7.5 to 26% increase in total reservations as a result of being on the OTA platforms and the Billboard Effect that comes with it. So it's really important to understand that, and just really hammers home the point that you absolutely have to be on the channels. Then you've got the framework that talks more about who's who in the zoo, the Expedia and Priceline war, and who else is in the mix there. So just a bit of a graphic there to assist with that. Then you've got a checklist, which will actually help you go through all the steps we talked about earlier, how to get started, how to automate it through channel managers, optimizing. It's just a checklist to say, well, I've got to be doing all these things. And a lot of the work's done on the channels, but this is your master checklist to say, well, have I taken care of these pieces here? So use that checklist to optimize yourself for this module. And a couple of other tools we've put in place here is, one is what we're calling a channel coverage map. And it's really just trying to, again, to put that architecture in place of, well, here's who's who in the zoo. But we also talk about volumes of people going to those sites, who are the dominant players, and if you populate on X, Y, or Z platforms, how much of the market are you? It's just a bit of a guide as to how much of the market are you being seen by, so to speak. So there's that many channels now. You're not going to go and list on all of them. So, but it's a bit of a guide to help you. What are the main ones that I should be utilising? And the final template here is the room mapping template. So I mentioned earlier about it can get confusing between the platforms when you've gone to all the trouble of setting up your room naming conventions correctly, then you go into the platforms and you can't actually do that. Well, I think what we absolutely find it helpful is that the name that you create on XYZ platform will be different to the name that you've created in your master template. And we encourage you to record that, because when you go back in, you're going back in to add new rate plans, new things, you look at a name and you go, oh, exactly what room is that? So this template here is all around putting all the names on one page. So having some symmetry and an alignment of the room names that you've got across all the platforms. So as you populate each platform, as you set each one up, record the name that you've ended up with on each platform and put it next to your master copy. And this template actually helps you keep track of that, because I guarantee you will need it down the track. And that just leaves us to talk about strategy and action selection, which we'll talk about in the next video.